Oh, yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear you. Wait, no, wait. The premise of the video is that I cannot hear the music. Anyway, so the whole premise of this video is going to be indeed that I cannot hear the music that I'm making. And I just wanted to try out making like a 16-bar little idea here to see if I can actually make some music without hearing what I'm doing. So clearly we have nothing here, which means that we need to start off with our basics, which is going to be a kick, a bass, some easy drums. And of course, for the kick drum, I could go into one of my presets. As you can see, here are all of my Psychic presets, which are currently on sale over my Gumroad and my Behance pages. But I actually want to try making a kick from scratch without hearing it and seeing if it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the length, and then I'll delete as many points as I need. We can already see that this is a little bit of a weird shape for a kick. So we'll probably need to lower this frequency a little bit. And then here, somewhat like, I don't want to make it too high, and I want to keep the note here. Furthermore, I want the note to be, let's write something in like F, I think. F sharp maybe. Envelope-wise, I'm going to lean this a little bit more towards the punch. So we get something like this. I'll play it for you guys, but I cannot hear that. So I don't know if that's actually good.
It is so bad, I want to give you a 0, but that's not possible. So I give you a 1.
I don't think this EQ is what we want. So this is going to be our kick drum, and I don't know if it's going to be good or not. Let's place it down for now. Okay, there we have a kick drum. BPM wise, I'm thinking 145 maybe. And then we're going to add a bass line. Now this is going to be the hardest part to get right. And I think if I don't use something like Syscope, it is automatically going to sound terrible. So I am going to also be making this from scratch. Again, I could just load up a preset, but that kind of defeats the whole point of the challenge. Here I want to go like this for the filter cutoff. Like so, and then a bit sharper. And then we've set the phase randomization all the way down. That's important, of course. We want a modulation that looks somewhat like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the sub bass here. So we'll have a sine wave in another oscillator to replace that. And we'll have that coming in a little bit later. Normally you do this with the wavetable bass lines, but I've noticed that there's some fun things you can do if you do this before the processing as well, because you can also change the phase of this one. Right now though, with the way that they're starting, I believe this one should be flipped. So I'm just going to flip horizontal. So that's going to flip it upside down. And now again, envelope 1/16 here. And then we need to set up volume for this one as well, which is going to look somewhat like this. And then these need velocity, and this should be a bass patch. I'm not going to be sure which octave it's playing, but you want a low octave, of course. This should be an F, right? I'll play all of them so that you guys certainly hear the right octave. Oh wait, this needs to be 16, yeah. Okay, so setting up the MIDI for this bass should actually be pretty easy. Again, we set F sharp. And then our MIDI is going to look somewhat like this because we have velocity control, so that is going to do our sidechaining. And then 1, 2, 3 octaves down. I'll loop this. And then we'll have a look at it over in Syscope. Okay, I can see we don't really have a click now. And I can see it is fairly sub-heavy because the waveform is kind of bulging out in that way. So what I think we need to do is lower this volume by a lot. Then attack all the way down. And this phase. Yes, now we have a click like that. And here we can dial in kind of the crossover that we want here. Now volume-wise, this doesn't look very balanced. That should be better, and I'm going to lower this -8, -9 for my standard volumes here. So that should be a kick and bass. And now we need to add some processing on top, which I'm just going to do the standard way with some multiband compression. Again, we're not going to use the compression. I'm just going to go 48 dB per octave. And then something like that. And I'll do another one on top of it for a little bit more smearing of the lower frequencies with just 2 bands here. Like that. That should be good enough, which means that now we can go into resampling. Of course, that is what you need to do if you use this kind of baseline, which means we just record the low velocity and the high velocity version here. And what I'm then going to do is add some fades to it, zoom in on the both of these and just raise the volume of them a little bit. Like so. And then our fade is going to go here and here. Consolidate all of that. And this is now our baseline, which is nice and clean sounding. Actually, what we can do is set these to 0 dB. And this will be -8, probably should be. And of course here, volume like that. Again, I cannot really hear it, so I cannot judge. But what I can do is do the phase alignment here by looking at the sum. So that's what it's looking like right now. What I want to do is just move it probably forward ever so slightly. I cannot hear the phase alignment. I do like to hear the phase alignment, also the kind of tonality that you get, but obviously right now I cannot do that. All right, that means that it's now time to go into the drums. So that means that I'm going to set up a group with 3 tracks like this. And I'm going to go into favorite drums here. I'm just going to get the ones that I know work. I believe this is a classic 909 open hat. At least I hope it is. Otherwise there's this one. Right? This one. I think this one is my standard open hat. And then we'll get a closed hat. And then we just need a snare. I cannot go into things like snare layering and all of that good stuff that you sometimes want to do. What I want to do now is volume like this, and this one probably -12. I usually have standard volumes for this kind of stuff, and that is why I kind of know where the volume needs to be. I think that is a nice way of working, but in general, it is good to be adaptive, and that is obviously something that I cannot do right now. For just a little bit of processing, what I'm going to do is add the dimension expander. This is really great for just a little bit of dimension on there with the size all the way down. And that is really the only processing that I do consistently on my drums, apart from stuff like EQing. And I don't really feel like I would be able to do that right now. So this is what we get now. So that means that it's time for the fun part, which is going to be the sequences. And this is really where you get to be creative and write melodies and automations and whatnot. So let's open up Vital for a change. And let's see if we can maybe make like a nice big melodic synth to start with. Like a super saw thingy in 2 octaves. I always feel like maybe 20 is a bit too much detune for this kind of stuff. And then I'm going to add like a flanger maybe would be interesting. Just have that kind of slightly modulate up over the course of the drop. And then what I want to prepare is glide here. So like so, meaning that once we turn up the macro, it should glide around. I hope that the glide amount make sense, the amount that I said. Let's just kind of quickly see. That is roughly where I would want it to be, right? Like 90 milliseconds, something like that. I don't know, that might be a little bit too long, but we'll have to see at the end how it's going to turn out. Okay, so melody writing wise, I like to start off with a rhythm. And probably the most basic would be something like this. That's maybe a bit too basic. So let's go like that. And then what I'm going to do is alternate between octaves below it. So here again. And of course, with these top notes, we can actually write in the melody. Don't know if this is going to be a good melody. What I do want to do is lower the velocity of this a little bit. That is usually useful. So that's kind of like the supportive to the main melody, right? And then we'll have this a little bit more sustained, plucky. And I guess we can add a filter to this. Oscillator 2 needs to go through here. And then this needs to go through here. And then we're going to make this both plucky and so the pluck is going to be like the same as our envelope in terms of length. So a little bit longer. Also release. And this is just going to give it a pluck. We have a macro for this. Let's also put that macro on here so that it opens up together. And then again, with the mix lower, it's not going to have as big of an effect on it. But what could be cool is to also modulate the mix down at certain points. I like to set up my automations as I go with the sound design. At least that is what I've been doing lately. A little bit of chorus here, which I'm going to actually link to the envelope so that it doesn't kind of wash out the sound. Bit of multiband compressor, actually fairly strong multiband compressor. Usually on the high frequencies, this tends to be very, very strong. So you can lower it a little bit there. But I wouldn't know if it's now like out of balance or anything like that. 1/8 dotted on both of them. And then like decent feedback, decent mix like that, and something like this. Now I have to like imagine in my head what it's going to sound like. It makes it much harder to just have like a creative idea, I guess. I'll set up the macros at least in the DAW so that we can play with that. With this melody though, it might be nice to have a few points where it slides a little bit nicer. So I would go here, then. I would love to go there. That would mean that the melody would do something like this. And we just have to make this and this bigger. I guess we can slide from here as well. And that would mean that macro 1 is going to go up here till there. And that's here and here. This might be too much. It is very loud, I think, because I see clipping. Gonna be a very boring melody. What is the lowest octave here? It is F1. We can go one lower. I wouldn't know the difference, but let's just hope that I chose the better of the two options here.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland.
We can also check those things later. Macro 3 was for the dry wet, and this is just going up. So macro 4 is just our main modulation kind of rising all the time. And this is the filter coming in, right? So we probably want to have it becoming more plucky fairly quickly. And then maybe stay plucky towards the end where it goes away a little bit more so that it opens up a little bit more again here. This is probably a good time to make a fill. And then in the fill, we want to make it special, of course. So let's see how would we do that. First of all, let's EQ this. See if we can get a little bit wiser off EQ here. Okay, so very strong frequencies down below here, which definitely need to be taken care of. And this flanger might be very, very strong. Just looking at that. So that would give us now something like this. I hope the melody still comes through these kind of things. That is often a danger when you do very strong filtering on certain sounds, especially melodic stuff, that you lose the actual melody of the sound in certain parts. Like it becomes really hard to hear what the melody is doing. Okay, so in here in the fill, what we could do, yes, let's do it like that. Let's get the delay and reverb on the macro so that we can turn them off completely. With this macro over here. Oh, and I also want this macro to make our sound a little bit pluckier. Just a tad bit like this. So that stands out more as well. And then we would need a riser. I'm gonna go for my most trusted riser back here. All of this kind of stuff you have to do purely on feeling and like know-how of the stuff that you already use, right? 140 BPM are all of these tuned to. As you can see, this lines up nicely with the start of the sample now. So we can just set this at, where is it? 9, I think. And that should line up perfectly. And if we then want it to line up over here, we just move it back a little bit. And I want to cut this reverb. Really, if you want to be nitpicky, you can do it like this. It doesn't really matter at the end, but this is nice. What I also would like to do is to build up towards the end here even more is have the high pass filter come up here. So here it should be removing, and then it cuts back into just the melody, and then whatever happens after. Should we also make the chorus then lower? I think that would be cool, right? And I think we can do it. No, wait. Like this. And you invert this. So with it all the way up, the chorus modulation is never going to open, I believe. Yes, exactly. Okay, then what I want to do next is I want to filter. Again, this is going to be for the build-up parts that I want over here. So this is high-pass filter. Just towards the end here, maybe the last 3 bars just going up like this. Probably around 80-ish. This is the kind of rack that I've been using for over a year now, so I kind of know where the values need to be for it to kind of make sense. Gonna add a auto filter over here so that we can remove the highest frequencies towards the end here in a nice smooth way. Not that far, probably like this. And that means that we can add snares to this. And you can do a little cool fill thing over here with the snares, and then it goes into the melody thing. I think that would be cool. So snares, do I want to pitch them up or not? I don't think I want to, so I can keep them in audio. I have this really wonky sample, this drum sample over here. I believe it's this one. Yeah, this isn't, yeah, so this is the one that I mean. This one doesn't sound good on its own, from what I recall, right? It sounds like thin and whatnot. But when you actually just put it in here and just cut it up into 16 notes, it becomes effective as a building snare. So I'll have this up until here, where our build-up stops. What I would also like to do is towards the end here, maybe have multiple kicks, because this is where the high pass is also still at. Sorry. Things are soloed and whatnot. They may have been soloed before, I couldn't tell. It's now very loud, seemingly. What is that? Oh, that's the riser. Aha. This probably needs to be like 26 here. And of course, this needs to filter in. And I want it to come in from the top, but also with a steeper filter from the bottom. So this comes in towards here-ish. And then also the Q goes up. This is very important. Because then, as you can see, it kind of shapes off the tonality of the lower part even more. And you don't really want that clashing with the kick and bass anywhere, but really the end here. I'm going to add a drum fill in this little part here. Now I would need to see if I can select a drum fill for the type of idea that I have in my mind based on the waveform that I see. I do want something fast, so maybe something like that. Maybe the last two parts of this here. We'll add another rising element, which we can do something cool with, where we have a nice long crash that is going to reverse into this as well. And one of the things I've noticed is that with crashes, it is very important to have a somewhat, I wouldn't even say consistent tonality to it, but a tonality to the crashes that they don't feel off with each other. So for example, right here we have this reverse crash coming up. If this one is very high pitched and has a lot of very bright frequencies, and then it loops into it, and then say that the kick and bass starts here playing again, there would be a crash here that is like very low pitched and has a lot more of those kind of medium high frequencies, right? More around the 5-6K area, I would say. Then they sound really off with each other. So that is really what I'm scared of with the crashes. And also that I am setting their volume to high. This one seems to be either towards the very end here, there's like a very big spike, but even that doesn't seem to be. So it seems like this is not reaching 0 dB, and therefore I can keep the mixer a little bit higher. So here, crash down. I'm hoping therefore that tonally wise, these two crashes are going to work with each other. And here we set the volume a little bit lower because this one is a little bit louder in the sample itself. We can also do a little fill over here. We just remove one bassline there, something like that. And now I think adding a few more support elements should get this part of the track into like a high energy feel, I would say. So that would mean particles. Particles are fairly easy, so I should be able to do that without hearing it. There. Note on random 2 on that one. Also a little bit back so that it doesn't go up all the way here. In fact, I think you want this more back. You want it again to be fairly plucky, a little bit of a tag to it, right? A little bit of click to it, I mean. And then just delay should be good if I now play. I hope this means that, yes, frequency-wise it is constantly changing. Both of these are unipolar, so that should be exactly what we want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these nice and short. 3 octaves below. I might do, it's going to depend on the tonality of this one. Once I actually listen to this, I'll play them both an octave higher and lower for both of these synths, because that can make a massive difference. This seems very quiet. Maybe a bit of, yeah, from the sub. That's always nice. And then not the sine wave itself in there, of course. Just the tonality like that. And then final thing I'll do is I'll try to make a big FM synth. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go into the wavetables here from my Carvetory wavetable pack. And this is going to be again hard because some of these wavetables have like an atonality to them. Right, some of this may be like atonal stuff that you're hearing, while others are like FME and screechy and whatnot. So that may be what this is doing. This looks a little bit more like what an FM setup would give you, I think. Although looking at this, it looks like a little bit of a harmonic mess. So this might be more atonal, actually. This also seems to be a harmonic mess with nothing up on top of it, which is interesting. Here we seem to have individual patches, which should be pretty gritty, I think. But here we have like a continuous part. That is really what we're looking for when we're creating gritty tones. So this should hopefully be a nice gritty tone. Another thing we can do to just make sure that it has a little bit of that added stability is add one of these randomized phased saw waves in there. Again, 2 voices, a little bit of detune, and then we distort that against each other. Hopefully this is not going to be too loud, but in terms of processing, it should be pretty much this here. Now lining this up with maybe a melody could be cool, but I think I'm just gonna try a random pattern here. Just something like this to alternate here. And then in this last one, because this is the fill, we don't have it. I could do some more. Cool stuff. Let's see what happens if we remove the drums here and then we take all of the sequences and we have it filter in again over here. So that would look like this. I don't really want to cut it off, so I'm just going to like really fast go down, because if you cut in an instant, it can cause clicks, and even just a little bit of a slide down will help with that. So I hope this is a cool effect. Okay, I can see that this is peaking, so yeah, this needs to go lower. And then I'm assuming we still want to have everything then there. Another thing that I haven't done here is remove any low frequencies out of any of these. Okay, so it's just the FM synth that needs that. All right, so what I want to do next is duplicate this over. I'm going to write one more section here. So actually I can just take all of this, duplicate that over twice. We don't need the baseline thing here. And then I will take our main melody over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to complement this one FM synth with a different FM synth over here, so that we go from something melodic into something FME here. Let's, for the fill, make sure that we have something cool happening here too. So let's say that we do a 2-bar fill. And let's for now say that we have no sequences there. We can then take this drum fill and place that fully there. And that would then be the end of the track here. So we'll have to make the FM synth, which we already have. I can go in my tones back. That's kind of cheating, because I mean, I can just go here, here, and here. And this should be a strong FM synth. right? Honestly, when it comes to sound designing, that is very, very often what I just do, in the sense that I don't want to spend a lot of time on every single element, especially when it comes to like background stuff, or if it's like a small one shot or whatnot. I don't want to sit here and experiment endlessly with FM, so I just go to the tones from the tone spec. And if I want a few variations, there's another one over here that is like very similar. We have some like bubbly ones as well, I believe. Just looking at the waveform, this should be something gritty. This should be something weird. Right, so you can very quickly start off. By the way, if you're interested in any of the packs or products that I've talked about in this video, they are currently all on sale up until the end of the year. So if you want to get them, now is the time to do so, and you can check them out over on my Gumroad and Bayhip pages. Anyway, I think we can make this a little bit more exciting if I add a bandpass filter, just to keep it interesting. And what we'll do is we'll make a rhythm here that is going to work in this part, so that there's like a little bit of a gap when it plays here, and then this stuff plays. And I think that that would be a nice groove. Duplicate that over. I'm gonna make some changes here, and then maybe like something like this. Maybe just alternate like that. And we duplicate over 3 times. Again, in this last part, we're not gonna have any sequences, because that's where the drum fill is going to be. And then finally, we already have the macro set up for this, but all we have to do is configure this. Then you right click here, MIDI, gonna go and assign that. And now if I turn off the arm for recording here and I turn on this knob, what I can do is I can move my MIDI controller here and write in the exact automation that I want, and it will just record the automation. Okay, so that's there. We'll add our delay to this. I hope that this is a nice big sound now. Of course, we don't want it to be super loud. It's too high in octave here. Now it should sound cool. Final thing I'll do is I'll add a little bit of reverb to this one. Like the small room here, something like that. And then all we have to do is cut the volume of all of the sequences right here. We'll have our riser helping to build up to that moment. And our project is finished, at least these 2 little sections here. Of course, I could go into more and more details, but I don't want to ruin the ideas too much. I just want to see if I can get a basic idea down without hearing it. Aha. So the kick is extremely loud, and the reason for that is my size scope track was still turned on. That's not good. The second thing is our main sequences aren't really coming out. This is very loud. Ah, wait, the automation doesn't return here. Finally, what I would probably do to get this in line is EQ. Okay, so in the end, it actually turned out better than I expected. To be honest, all of the volumes of the melodies and all of the volumes being off and the kick kind of being routed twice here made it probably worse for you guys to listen to while I was working on it. But I hope that it was still bearable and that you still enjoyed what was coming out of it. And if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, as I'll be posting more of this stuff in the future. If you have any challenges or ideas that you want me to do, of course you can leave a comment down below. But that's going to be it. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.